Let's talk about CMS platforms, but not in the way that most comparisons do. Because most CMS videos focus on blogs, case studies, maybe a few hundred items, and that's fine until your project stops being small. What I actually care about in 2026 is this. What CMS holds up when the project scales? And not hypothetically, but in the real world. Directories, product catalogs, user-generated content, sometimes your platform will grow far beyond what you initially planned for, and that's exactly what this video is about. So I'm not going to explain what a CMS is. If you're watching this video, the chances are you already know. However, I will discuss what are kind of some of the key limitations and breakdowns of existing CMS platforms. So the most obvious of which, as you begin to scale, is item limits. Platforms like Framer and Webflow have counts of say 20 to 30,000 items in a CMS. So that basically means that when your site gets to a certain point where it grows beyond that limit, you're going to need to look for some other solution. Other areas to focus on are performance and speed, how reliable it is as you begin to scale, how easy it is to take what's in your CMS and monetize it, and particularly with scale, how many external tools you need to start using in order to make things function as you need them to. This is where the differences between platforms really starts to matter. So let's start with the big one, CMS Item Limits. If you've used Webflow or Framer, you'll know that the limitations sit around 20 to 30,000 items per CMS. Now, 20,000 sounds like a lot, and let's be honest, it really is for most projects. But once you're building a marketplace or a directory or somewhere that relies on user-generated content, perhaps an extensive product catalog, you might start to find that that item limit creeps up on you sooner than you expected or planned for. So with Webflow limited at 20,000 CMS items and Framer capping with all of its add-ons at 30,000, by contrast, Wix Studio supports up to 10 million CMS items. For this, there's up to 100 gigabytes of dedicated database space. Now that's not a marginal difference, that's a completely different category of project. This isn't about can I build it, this is about whether or not the platform I'm using will support the project as it scales. So next, let's talk about reliability and the database architecture itself. And this is the part that most comparisons will skip over. And it's important to discuss this, especially as we're saying here with projects that are going to scale well into their, above tens of thousands. We're talking hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions of CMS items. Webflow's CMS is built on SQLite, which is fast, it's lightweight, and very good for smaller datasets, generally under about 10 gigabytes. And that is not a criticism in the slightest. That is a brilliant design choice on their part. But as your collection begins to grow and your read and write operations increase, as concurrency goes up, this is where performance and reliability will start to matter a lot more. Wix Studio's CMS architecture is designed to scale smoothly, all the way up to that multi-million item threshold. So instead of worrying about restructuring your data, splitting collections, or having to plan for a future migration to a new tool, you're building right away with something that's built to grow with your project. So for me, where things really begin to diverge is essentially the difference between a full stack solution and kind of a patchwork DIY solution. So with many CMS setups, with tools like Webflow and Framer, you can end up relying on, say, software like Airtable or many different integrations to make your site continue to perform as you expected, but when you begin to scale to this kind of level. So you can end up with a system where something runs the front end, something runs the database, something runs the server-side logic. You can end up with quite a fractured setup. And that works, but it is a bit of a patchwork. With Wix Studio, you're working in a fully integrated environment. That means your front end, your CMS, your database, your server-side logic, and all of your business tools are all in one place. This means you can run custom back-end logic, handle complex relationship between sets of data, and keep everything under one roof. At a certain scale, the question becomes, how many moving parts do I want to have to maintain? So let's focus in on that last point in particular, where we're talking about the business solutions being integrated with your full stack. Now, in my opinion, this is a massively underrated advantage. With Wix Studio, that means that your CMS data is not just content. It means that you can use it for e-commerce sales, you can use it for gated content, to sell memberships. If you want to make money from your content, then an integrated full stack solution is really beneficial. So to be completely clear, this is not for everyone. If you're making a small marketing site, a blog, perhaps you're a photographer wanting to sort of showcase your work, then thinking about these kind of limitations is potentially a degree or two irrelevant for your site. Most CMS platforms nowadays will support anything you could particularly need to achieve with a site on that sort of scale. This video is specifically for, companies, platforms, and businesses that need to think about the long term, where they're going to potentially outgrow a platform and need to dismantle, glue on new solutions or move things over to a brand new platform. And these are the kind of important decisions to make when choosing the right CMS for your particular project. So smaller projects, almost any CMS will do. But if you're building a platform, if you're building a scalable product or something that you aren't sure if it's going to potentially outgrow you, then this is a really, really key factor. And Wix Studio at this point genuinely becomes a really key player. So the big question, what is the best CMS platform in 2026? If you've made it this far through the video, you'll understand that that's a really complex question and not straightforward in the slightest, because it's completely relative. Whatever project you're trying to build is what ultimately will determine what CMS platform will work best for you. If you're a photographer, if you're a marketer just needing to display some case studies, if you just want to run a small blog, then you can pretty much go wild and find whichever one works best for you in terms of simplicity and ease of design. If you need to think about building something that grows at scale, if you need millions of CMS items, if you need something that's going to, potentially host user-generated content at a rate that you can't necessarily immediately predict, then you need to really apply some of these principles that we spoke about today in making the decision for which one's best for you. And Wix Studio, for that specific type of project, definitely stands out to me as a key player. The best CMS platform isn't the simplest. It's not the one that works until it all of a sudden doesn't. It's the CMS platform that scales with you, that handles real-world data, that natively supports monetization, and doesn't force you to rebuild your entire project when things actually succeed.